Hello, everybody. This is the MakerCast, and welcome to my channel. I have super cool guests today, and we will talk about making stuff and introduce new channels. And maybe we will also have a quiz today.
If it all works out. And our host doesn't die before the end.
So actually, we don't have a quiz yet. So the quiz master Flash is here to get any ideas from the chat. So you have the time, 1 hour time, to pitch any quiz ideas to Dave, and he will prepare the quiz. And at the end of we have a feedback loop.
Oh, sorry, that was my fault. I'm sorry.
It's normally bitluni.
It's
First
usually
warning.
Sorry. And in about 1.5 hours, we will do the quiz then. So, thank you, Quizmaster. I will put you off screen now, and please, people, pitch the ideas to the Quizmaster. Okay, great. We have 2 new channels. Intermit.Tech, Quindor is here. He does LED stuff. He will introduce himself soon. And we have Billie Ruben, which is the queen of making like wearables or sewing and of 3D printing. But she will do it herself. Let's start with Billie. Yeah, you start first.
Okay. Hi, I'm Billie Ruben. I'm Australian, and I used to help run the 3D printing subreddit and admin the 3D printing Discord. And yeah, I really like 3D printing, but I started my background in theatrical costume making. So like bitluni said, I come from a sewing-y sort of background. So I like mixing the 3D printing with like traditional handcrafts and stuff. But I also do weird things like make adult toys. I don't know what to start with. What should I talk about?
Do you want to demonetize us now or later?
Yeah, normally the rule is wait 5 minutes, right? Isn't that something? I don't know. So I don't know. What can I talk about? Well, I have a little YouTube channel, and on that YouTube channel, I have a video explaining how to make kind of like illusions, I guess. Like they're like holograms on 3D prints. So this is a flat surface here. It's totally flat, but it kind of looks 3-dimensional because I basically made an SVG, like a vector file, for this sort of, it's a Usagi pattern really, from a Japanese puzzle box. And yeah, I made an SVG and converted it with Cura, and now it looks like this interesting pattern. Yes, so that's a safer work one.
Cool. It looks really awesome.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
I know you have like you make posters. Maybe you can plug your posters here as well.
I made some posters for 3D printing. So like how to level, some CAD design tips. I don't know. Can I share
you can maybe share your screen. There is a share button below, and I can take it online.
Okay, I could just flick through them real quick. Are they all here? Yes. No, they're not all here. I will go to my blog post. Sorry. Very well prepared, clearly. Yes. Okay. And I've recently released some for resin printing, which are less well known. Yes. Share.
There is a share button, the 4th button from the left, and
Got it.
StreamYard. Yes. No.
Oh, it's a whole screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Whole screen. Here we go. Okay. Is that working?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll zoom in a bit so people can see. So I make posters. The most well-known ones are this bed leveling one, which got shared everywhere when I first made it, which just shows you how to level a bed, which is like one of those things that when you're starting 3D printing is like pretty crucial, and it's a hurdle that like everyone has to has to jump over, I think, when you're starting 3D printing. And then I have another one for like different software to use for depending on what you're trying to make. Because that was another question we got all the time on the subreddit, just like, what software should I learn? And it totally depends on what you're trying to make. Like everyone would be like Fusion 360, but some people want to make characters for D&D and you need a different software for that. And then I collected a whole bunch of CAD design tips that are specific to 3D printing, like little things that are make your life easier in 3D printing that I just learned along the way. And then I started some on resin printing, which I just want to review a little bit before I release more formally. But yeah, like preparing for resin printing and setting up, and then like sort of the full process of resin printing. So yeah, I make some little posters. I really enjoy making those. They're really fun. I really like iconography and yeah, making sort of complex things, boiling them down to some sort of simplicity. So yeah, posters.
That's cool.
Can we buy those? Or where can we buy those?
Yeah, so if you go to my website, billieruben.info, then there's a shop and you'll be able to see all the things I sell or things that like help support me. There's clothes and stuff as well, but the posters are there as well. Yeah.
That's cool. The links are in the description already, I think, for your site as well. So, okay.
Thanks.
So what do you have anything else that you're making right now or did make recently?
I made a corset recently, which is hard to see, but it's a little ribbon corset, which is actually a traditional style from the late 1800s, kind of into the early 1900s. And this is like a really lightweight corset, but it's all made out of ribbons. And this was meant to be a rough draft, but it fits so well that I've just sort of worn it. But yeah, I think I'm going to make a real copy of it because my friend pitched to me that we should do like a female version of Sherlock and Watson and do like fun Victorian outfits. We've been talking about doing Victorian outfits for ages. So that should be really fun. And I think, yeah, the corset will make up part of that. Yeah. I don't know. I have adult things, but do we want to go there or shall I just,
sure,
if you want to see it, go to my website. I'm quite proud of the process. So
yes. We want to know anything about like how to cast and do what do we need to do to have like food safe, let's say silicone casting or anything. I think there's a lot into that you could share with us.
Yeah. So sex toys. We'll just start there. That's what we're talking about. But I suppose food safe is sort of similar. We could call it that if we wanted, but I don't know what you're gonna do eating with this. Yeah, so obviously 3D prints, they're not conducive to like body safety or whatever because they have these layers, right? So like even if they're going through a relatively safe hot end, which is unlikely because a lot of them have lead in them, but even if they were going through a safe hot end and the material itself is safe, it's still got all these layers for bacteria to grow in, which is no good for anything food or body safe. So you have to find a way to smooth that out and also like make sure that there's no internal voids for water to seep into or like liquids because like
I never managed to 3D print with FDM anything that's like waterproof or anything. It's always
you're not
like
alone. Yeah, like it's really, really hard and I wouldn't want to pretend it was like even like and what are you going to do to assure that it is like stick it in an MRI machine? Like no. So basically you've got to cast the thing, you've got to cast it somehow, and the normal process is to like print like the toy that you want and then cast it in silicon and then put mold release in that silicon and cast it again, which is like you're using quite a bit of material along the way and you have to smooth that 3D print somewhere in there, which is like a really labor intense process. Normally you're like covering it in something, sanding it back, covering it in something, sanding it back, blah, blah, blah. So it's like this really boring, long process. And you need quite a lot of materials. So you need like quite a lot of silicon and all that sort of stuff. But I worked out a way to do it real quick. So you 3D print the mold. So you 3D print the mold and then you get beeswax, like just normal old beeswax. and you pour it into the mold and pour it out really quickly, and then do that again, and it coats the inside with like a really thin layer of beeswax, which totally smooths out the mold, like totally, completely smooths it out. And you do it while it's together. So it also removes the flashing, like the little bit that would normally seep into the gaps here. So it just seals the whole thing. And then you cast directly into that. So you're only using as much silicone as the actual toy that you're making. And I just think it's such a really quick, easy, cheap way to go from a 3D print to a toy. Like this took like an hour once I had the 3D print in my hand. So that's really great.
You need to refresh the wax every casting that you do?
I think you would, yeah. I mean, this is more for like, it's not for like, I wouldn't make it like to sell. This is more for like one-off kind of things that you're doing it for yourself or your friends or whatever, you know, like, which I recommend. I cast with a friend and it was really fun. Like it's definitely a good time. But
That's cool.
It's more for like one-off sort of stuff. Yeah, if you're going to do it industrially, you should do it in a very different way.
And what kind of silicone are you using for that? Is there like a special brand or special sort?
This one's made in Australia. It's a prosthetics grade silicone. And yeah, I just spoke to the guy at the silicone shop, and he seemed cool enough. So we were like, he's like, "What are you making?" And we're like, "Dildos." And like he seemed cool enough, and he was like, "Okay, well, you want this stuff," and was like very lovely about the whole thing. But obviously, pick your moment and judge differently depending on what shop you're in. But so I think in America and elsewhere in the world, a lot of people use smooth on dragon skin, which is the same stuff that Bad Dragon use in their toys. So if you've ever had a Bad Dragon, which if you haven't, have you even been on the internet? But yeah, that's the same stuff they use in their toys, is what I hear. Yes.
Billy, you're clearly not from the same generation as me. Like, I'm afraid to order my Chinese over the phone, and you're going in asking guys for like dildo quality silicone.
Well, he seemed cool. He had lots of tattoos and piercings, and we were like, he seems like he and also like we took a chance, we took a gamble, and he was very enthusiastic. So it's fine.
I had a question for you, Billy, in the chat. Maybe I can find it. Was about printing on the. It's about another topic. But yeah, can you ask Billy how she stops the hot and snagging textiles?
I guess it depends on the thickness of your textiles. I suppose that's in reference to the thing I probably should have shown, which is
No. I don't want to cut you off. About the sex toys.
No, I had nothing more interesting to say about that. That's done.
If there are questions, please ask. I will forward.
Yeah. So this is printed onto fabric. So I think this is probably what the question's in reference to. And this is a piece of tulle, which is a really lightweight fabric that is used in wedding veils a lot of the time. So it's almost invisible, really hard to see. But what you do is you 3D print a couple of layers, you pause the print, put down a bit of fabric, lay it out with some, I normally use a bit of masking tape or some magnets or something on the bed, and then continue the rest of the print. And so you end up with it sort of sandwiched in there. So the back is also 3D print. So it's sort of, the fabric is sandwiched in there. And to stop it snagging, I think the most important thing is getting it quite flat. So making sure that there's no bubbles in your fabric when you're laying it down. I suppose using quite a thick fabric might be difficult. I always use quite thin ones, so I'm not sure whether that's why it's snagging. But I suppose you could always also add a Z lift on hop, like Z hop on retraction, I think it's called in Cura. I'm not sure what they call it in Prusa Slicer, but Z hop on retraction, I think is what it's called in Cura. You can always add that in so that every time it's moving, it's lifting the head up. So it's less likely to catch on your fabric, though it can sometimes mar your prints a little bit. So yeah, just make sure it's nice and flat. I hope that's answering the question. I tried tulle, but it always snags. Yeah, okay. With the tulle, there's sort of a diamond pattern on it too. So make sure you're smoothing it along those lines. So put a bit of tape down and then smooth it from in the direction of the little lines on the pattern. So it'll have like this crosshatch pattern. So smooth it in the direction of those lines and then put another bit and then work from the middle out, just always smoothing along those lines. That should help you get it flatter.
So I hope. Stretch it like really firm, or
Relatively, not really stretching, just like pushing it flat, like easing it flat. If it's not flat to begin with, you might also want to iron it under between a piece of cloth or something, so it's not directly touching your iron, and have it on a low temperature just to like make it flat again. But yeah, it will burn really easily, so definitely want something in between in a low temperature. Yeah, give that a go. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I also have a video. I did a presentation for Hackaday on how to 3D print onto fabric. So there is a video. It's a bit of a longer one. I have a write-up as well. But yeah, you can see me do it there on that one. So yeah, that might be a
maybe someone can drop a link in the comments or so.
Yes, I will grab you one.
Okay. So anything else or?
Oh, someone else should go. I've been rambling for a while.
No, it's
actually
it's 10 minutes.
I have another question, Billy, for you. Like, so like you were involved in the 3D printing were involved in the 3D printing subreddit and things like that. And say for the more like adult themed things, like was it hard to find like a tribe for that or whatever? Like, I guess it is still a little bit taboo on the internet. Like a lot of places, like say YouTube would be fairly against this type of content or this type of conversation. Like, is it hard to find a place to like meet like-minded people like that and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's definitely a niche. On the subreddit, when I was a moderator, I didn't really post anything not safe for work, which was funny because I was actually moderating under a porn account, as in like, as in I started the Reddit as an account to make porn. So it was actually quite weird that I wasn't posting that on the subreddit, I guess. But I just thought, yeah, I wouldn't. There was a lot of politics in that one, so I won't go into too much detail. But yeah, finding a tribe, yeah. So there's some cool communities built. Quindor actually made them. He's the author of buttplug.io, which is like yeah, like making butt plugs. It's like an online butt plug generator.
Best URL of the day.
Yeah, and also like making them plug into other software. So like you can get like a Love Sense or something, or a Lush, or they're like yeah, it's pretty typical. You can buy them in most toy stores, and you can plug them into other things like Unity. So you could sync video games with them or whatever. So he does very creative things with yeah, toys, adult toys. And there's a whole community of like hardware hackers around that he's sort of developed over the years. So they're on Discord and Telegram and stuff. So that's a really great community. I have another little Discord that I started just for 3D printing because it was a point of much contention, but yeah, we didn't put any not safe for work stuff. Really not safe for work stuff. Like, you could have a bust of Venus or whatever, something you could have in a museum, that would be okay. But like, if you're making toys, that wasn't for the Discord. So we made like a sister server called 3D Printing After Dark, and I'm like super proud of the logo. Super proud of the logo. So I'll have to drop a link in the description.
Yes, do it. I will add this to the description.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I'm curious also how YouTube reacts to this stream, because I don't see anything that wouldn't be safe for work, at least in my understanding. So there is like, you can check it's from 18 plus, but I don't think it's 18 plus because it's educational, and basically it's something you learn with 12 years or anything. So
yeah, like I think YouTube technically is okay if you're talking about like educational stuff, which technically I just educated you, so I don't know.
Yeah, and it's not meant for kids. So.
We have to confirm this on every video.
That's the point where my monetization is gone.
Yeah.
Can I ask one more question, man? It's pretty safe for work. The beeswax, like is it like you were saying that you put it on when the mold is together? Is it like hard to get it down to the very bottom of it and things like? Is it easy to work with?
Liquidy. Yeah, it's like really liquid, and you want it straight off the stove. I talk about how to heat it up in the article that I wrote on, like I wrote a blog post explaining it all on my website. Yeah, it just sloshes straight down. It's very liquid, and you want it to be really liquid because you want it to pour out really well as well. So you want it to be quite warm.
Okay.
Do you have any trouble with like the heat of the wax deforming the 3D print?
I was most worried about that, and it didn't happen at all. So yay!
Okay.
I think because it was only in there for such a short time, like you literally pour it in, pour it out, and then heat up the wax again, so it's right on that warm temperature, and then pour it in and pour it out again. And yeah, so I think it just wasn't enough to bother it. I suppose you could also then like flash cool it if you wanted to, like stick it in something cool, but then you'd have to worry about water being in your mold, and you might want to dry it out after that.
How thick is this layer? So do you lose a lot of details?
Thin. You lose some detail, but that's kind of the point as well. So it rounds everything out. I don't know, like 0.5 mil thick. It's really fine, like really, really fine, but enough to wipe out all the layer lines, which is what you want. And yeah, you don't want too much detail. I think it's like, well, I just mean it's more detail is more places for stuff to get stuck in, like, you know, water to stay and then bacteria to grow. So the point is to remove the detail. Yeah.
Okay, I think. Do you have anything else to show or?
I don't know. I have my little keyboard. This is my embroidery keyboard. All the letters are embroidered.
That's cool.
So
that's neat.
Yeah. So that's like a little silly project I did, which is really fun. I think it's fun because it's quite tactile. It feels nice, and you could totally cover them if you wanted to. And also like, it's just kind of a really different texture, you know, like it's like, quite fun. And you can change them really easily. Yeah.
Cool.
That's the silly one. Yeah.
Okay, next on the list. Thanks, Billy.
I'll be quiet.
Next.
I mean, that's a tough act to follow, right?
Next on the list, Quinn.
Sure.
That's another great channel that.
Well, wasn't Usagi's tubes blowing up, or
it hadn't caught fire yet? So I think we're okay.
Okay, if there is
you can go first if you want. I don't mind.
If there is a time restriction there, David, then we can do with your first.
It's not necessarily time restriction. It's more of a trust restriction.
Okay.
Let's do David first.
Let's ask you. Is it working right now?
Yeah, it's functioning at the moment.
Okay, then let's go with David.
All right. Okay, so the last MakerCast that, as an introduction, my name is David. I run a channel called Usagi Electric, and I have an unhealthy obsession with vacuum tubes. But I tend to use my vacuum tubes at like incredibly low voltages, like 24 volts and minus 12 volts. So the circuit is like safe enough to like stick my fingers in because I'm an idiot and I do stuff like that, which you don't want to do if there's like 600 volts on the board because you'll be an idiot in the corner smoking. So I build everything at 24 volts. And so on the last MakerCast, I showed off this, which was my vacuum tube replica of a 555 timer. And I demonstrated it, and I was like, I thought it was really neat. And I had expressed an interest in making a kit out of it. And so 2 revisions later, here is the kit version. So we've got some nice, aluminum legs here that you solder on. I got the tube count down quite a bit from 18 down to 12. I was like,
nuts.
yeah. And when I said, hey guys, I want to join this MakerCast, I was totally going to show this off. And then I started probing it a little more, and I was reminded of something that Brian told me a while back, and that was when we were talking about ordering PCBs, and he said the magic number is 3. So it takes 3 revisions until you're happy. And this is the second revision. And so this does not work. Yeah. And so I covered that on like Friday, and I was like, oh, this is bad news. Because now my the main thing I wanted to show off doesn't work. But I mean, it's still cool to show off because this is...
Well, you're showing off reality.
Yeah, this is where, I guess so. But this is where the kit's going, and this is what it's going to look like. And we're pretty close. I'm working on revision 3, and it's going to be ordered soon. But I don't necessarily like sitting still. And I liked the idea of building a vacuum tube replica of a modern IC. And if we think of the 2 most popular ICs, we've got the 555 timer and then the 741 operational amplifier. So I thought, why not make a smaller integrated circuit that is a vacuum tube replica of the 741. And so that is what is currently functioning, but we don't know for how long. So I've got that set up here. I think you guys should be able to see this, hopefully.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So to demonstrate this, I've got, I figured I would use appropriately retro tech to demonstrate it. This is the 741 operational amplifier back here. I've got my HP 200CD wide range oscillator and then Telequipment D52 oscilloscope. And these are all vacuum tube operated test equipment. And so the operational amplifier right now is set up in negative feedback. So this is kind of how it's going. Anybody that's played with operational amplifiers should be able to recognize negative feedback if I didn't get something horribly wrong, which is highly likely. So the non-inverting input is just set up on a bias here, and that's because my output doesn't go positive, negative. It just goes positive to more positive. And then I have a potentiometer up here to adjust the amount of gain. So we can go from a gain of 1, which means that if you have like a 1 volt sine wave coming in, you get a 1 volt sine wave out, all the way up to like a gain of 6. So if you have a 1 volt sine wave coming in, you get a 6 volt sine wave coming out. And so that's just what this potentiometer up here does. And so the two potentiometers here, this is my my bias, and I don't want to mess that because it took me like 6 minutes to get it right. But this one is my gain currently. So you can see if you look on the oscilloscope, as I turn the gain down, the sine wave drops, and as I turn the gain up, the sine wave gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so that is functioning correctly as an operational amplifier. And I tested the accuracy of it the other day with a modern oscilloscope, one that isn't vacuum tube powered, and I could see that it's like 90% accurate, which is pretty good. And so I was pretty happy with how this was going, but when I was hooking it up, I was having such a pain because I was using like alligator clips. And so I said, all right, screw this. I'm going to build a socket for this integrated circuit, because we all know that ICs plug into sockets, right? And so that's what this wood board is here. So I can actually just pull this out, and it's like a little integrated circuit. And
we always have issues with components
my
being
oscilloscope
too
is
small, but your
still
components
showing
are
something.
huge.
But yeah. So it just plugs in and out of this little socket here, which just has some like wipers. They're just metal wipers with wires soldered onto them. So you can just plug it in as long as you get pin 1 right. Which that's
I love it. I love it so
that's
much.
true for everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there we go. So now,
I guess you don't use tweezers a lot, huh?
no, I use hammers and needle nose pliers.
That's awesome.
David, what are the legs made from? The pin
okay,
legs?
yeah. So we'll I'll pull this out and bring it over to the other camera so it's a little easier to see here. So the problem that we had, so there was the legs have gone through several innovations. So like with this one, the legs were like literally nails that I used like a 240 volt spot welder that's meant for like cars to like spot weld on some thin sheet metal to these nails, which looks cool, but it's kind of a permanent solution. And so with the kit version, it's going to come with these like aluminum pieces that are laser cut out of a company up in Utah, I think. And then they just they stab through the top and you solder them on.
Nice.
But that's this is like a professional PC board. And so I wanted a solution that was similar to this, but that I could do at home on my mill. And so like with these, you can see like this is the top of the board. You can see the traces are all cut out. Right. And so that's how the mill just cuts out the traces. So if you look at the back, you can see that it's just a copper clad board and the mill isolates all the PCB traces. And so the legs here are just copper clad PCB that the mill cut the shape out of and didn't cut any traces because there were no traces. Yeah. And then I just soldered them onto the very large pads that I designed into it. So this was something that like I was able to cut entirely on the mill and then solder up on my desk without without needing to order any specialty parts from anywhere. And because this is just copper cladding, whenever I slide it into the socket, it just slides right in, and the socket is just like sheet metal. It's just flashing. We call it like building material. It's like the thinnest steel you can get, and it's just bent into this like kind of L shape. And so when you slide it down, it just pushes against that and makes the contact. And so I've built a large integrated circuit, but it's small. So ultimately, I hope to make this one into a kit as well, because tackling a 6 vacuum tube kit is a lot less daunting than tackling a 14 vacuum tube kit. So this was something that I was intending to do, but I was intending to do it in like 2 weeks, and then the 555 timer no longer worked, and I was like, time to move the schedule up a bit. So this like literally got functioning yesterday. So I'm quite excited to show it off. I'm happy that it works well.
Did you plan to maybe let them, like a PCB manufacturer, mill the pins like out of regular PCBs?
So like these things?
Yeah, gold plated.
Like if I could figure out how to tell JLC PCB that I want them to just cut like the copper cladded PCB without putting any solder mask on it. Like I want no solder mask at all.
You can just design a complete huge pad.
And then have the components connected together using mouse bites, so you can literally break them out.
Yeah, but
yeah.
You just use a huge pad or remove completely the solder. No, you have
you have to remove the mask.
It's the solder mask layer.
Yeah.
If you remove the solder mask layer, it'd be like
and gold plated.
Well, sorry, you need to copper layer it, do a big copper layer, and then do a big solder mask layer, which basically says don't put solder mask here.
Yeah.
So you'd be left with a big giant
and then you can
pad.
have them routed out and have little mouse bites, so that when you get it, it's just a big panel and you push them out basically.
Yeah, because I mean that would work great for shipping, because then you could have
you
the actual
just get a
PCB,
panel,
and then you have a panel with the little ones, and then
because they don't like routing it out completely and then having all kinds of weird shaped pieces.
Yeah.
So you just leave it in a panel, and then when you get it, you can almost just push it out or snip it off. Or
I've never this is the first time, like this big guy is the first time that I've used like a PCB manufacturer.
Yeah. Okay.
Because like I do everything on the mill, like out in the garage. So like I'm still learning a whole lot about how to design PCBs like in software that makes the PCB companies happy, because like what makes my mill happy out here is like super ghetto and jury rigged. And so like if I were to send that to the PCB guys, they would be like, this is garbage, try again, so like I'm still trying to learn the right way to do things, because I learned the backyard.
Well, anything your mill can do, they can certainly do, because levels of detail. So
STG Electronics made a good point that like it would still have the it wouldn't be bare copper, right? It would have the finish on it, like the
ENIC finish, for instance.
But if you do like gold, then it's gold.
If you do the electroplated gold, then it's very thin, but it's gold and it's copper underneath it. But
that's the best one. If you just use the bare like leaded finish, then it's a little bit like not mirror finish.
Yeah, exactly.
But almost,
The aluminium
almost perfectly flat.
The aluminium would probably hold up better to being inserted and.
So like this is not bad. Like I order this from Oshcut, and there's 8 legs per board, and I ordered 10 boards, and it was like $90, which cuts like if you split that up across 10, that comes out to like $8 per board, which is really not bad actually. So like, and I mean, these are straight up solid aluminum on both sides, and like they're rigid and tough, and like
you do some damage with them.
Yeah. So I was like, for a display piece, that looks awesome, right? Because like,
absolutely.
I mean, it's like if we're being realistic here, like nobody's gonna buy this. Or hell, I'm not even gonna use it, right? Like if you want to use a 555 timer, you use a friggin' 555 timer. So this is like more of a display piece, like something that is artwork but functions, which is kind of the weird category that I tend to exist in. And so I like to make things a little more robust. So I like the idea of this, but I think on the smaller version, you don't need something quite so beefy and hardcore as like,
I think you could do it with some PCB and code it with Unique. And
yeah. It was certainly much more affordable and would keep the parts costs down, which would be good.
You need also
it's always fun punching things out of stuff. Like there's just something really fun about that to be satisfying.
You might also need to offer like an adapter from this huge size to a normal size.
Yeah.
Where you can put it on an actual board somewhere.
You have to make this giant socket.
Please.
A funnel shape.
Can I ask another question about the making and selling kits with the tubes? Is it difficult to source the quantity of tubes that you're going to need, or
so
he's about to show us a giant box of tubes.
So that's 156 AU6s. That's another 156 AU6s.
Because you blow like 10
That's
a day.
Another 156 AU6s. I mean, you can see where this is going. I've got over 1,000 of these 6 AU6s.
Damn.
I have been slowly building a... Sorry, it probably sounds like I'm crushing glass up here. I've been slowly building up a vacuum tube computer as well, which is one of my long-term projects. And it's currently using 80 tubes. And when I say long-term projects, I mean the design ultimately is probably going to use around 500 to 600 tubes. So it's like a long-term project. It's based around a 1-bit microprocessor, and it's growing very large. It's getting hard to get it all into one camera shot, actually. So I've been collecting 6 AU6s for that, because the 6 AU6, which is what these 6 tubes are as well, it's a tube that seems to work really well at the low voltages that I'm running at. Now the 6 AU6 itself, the datasheet says it wants about 100 to 150 volts on the plates, which is what would be ideal for most vacuum tubes. But I'm running 24 volts, and at such low voltages, different types of tubes perform wildly differently because it's operating in a region that the engineers had never, ever intended. And so I've been slowly collecting these 6 AU6s off of eBay in large quantities. So I have about 300 of these that I'm willing to allocate to kits. But also there's, depending on what country you're in, some tubes are very easy to find and some tubes are very difficult to find. So in Europe, I think it's the EF80. The EF80 is probably, I think, one of the most popular ubiquitous tubes in Europe, and we don't get them at all here in the States. So ultimately, what I want to do is I want to redesign this to work with the EF80, as well as the 555 timer to work with the EF80. Which is a 9-pin tube versus a 7-pin tube. So it's going to take a little bit of re-engineering. But the idea is that for the first couple kits that go out, I will supply some tubes with them, or give that as an option. But then you also have other options, as you can buy the 6AU6 version, or you can buy the EF80 version. And it's a little difficult to see, but I have you can see 3 blue potentiometers on here. So these are adjustment potentiometers, and then there's a little socket that holds a little capacitor here that you can hot swap capacitors. And the idea with this is that even if you have 6 AU6s, depending on, nothing is new old stock anymore, it's all used, right? So it could be an absolutely haggard 6 AU6 that's still working, but not working as well as the rest in your system. So you can adjust for that that different level of emission that's going on within the tube with these potentiometers, or you can adjust the potentiometers far enough to use different tubes. So this can work with a 6CB6 or a 6DT6. The idea was to build it as flexible as possible to use whatever tubes you can get that are pin compatible. So while there are some that I can supply, obviously nobody is really producing these in large quantities anymore. So it's going to have to get down to a little, Russian farm engineering type of stuff where you just have to make it work with what you got.
Okay, we had a question. How do you solder aluminium to anything else? Because usually you can solder aluminium.
Yeah, so this is that was interesting. So
Oops,
this is
sorry.
yeah.
This one.
So
Yeah.
this is 1 millimeter aluminum. So it's 6061 aluminum. It was just like the cheapest aluminum they had. And I made really small bits that stick up through. So like you can see right there. So it's just like tiny little legs that stick up through the PC board. But even then, aluminum is a fantastic heat sink. So any heat you put into aluminum, it radiates very, very quickly. So the only way to solder to aluminum is to put so much heat into it that the aluminum heat soaks. So it's no longer like you're putting heat into it faster than it can radiate away from it.
So no touchy.
Yeah, so you just get your soldering iron stupid hot and let it sit on there for like 60 to 70 seconds, and then you can solder to it. So it's time intensive, but the result is that you have fairly clean solder joints with a really rigid connection.
Yeah, you try to overwhelm the thermal transfer by just pushing more into it.
Yeah, you brute force it essentially.
Yeah.
Everything I build is a version of brute force. So I wouldn't expect any elegance in anything. If you are borrowing my designs, there is zero elegance there. It is just pure violence.
Could you do it then, like in a reflow oven? Like,
no,
that would keep everything hot.
But then everything would have to get
everything else would melt.
Exactly,
all right.
Yeah. You get the black goo coming out of the FR4.
Because would it not? Because if it was all the same temperature all the way along the aluminium, would it not transfer? Like,
so the aluminum doesn't. The entire aluminum doesn't heat up to the same temperature because the feet that stick through the board are very small. They heat soak first. Yeah. Because there's no other material around the tiny little feet that stick through.
Yeah, I get that with an iron, but in an oven, wouldn't
they heat up quicker? So like down here, this is like I can touch this with my finger even when this is hot enough to melt solder up here.
Yeah. So if it would be,
if it was in an oven.
No, but so
in an oven, I have no idea.
In his case, the spot is 300 degrees, and then it melts and solders. In an oven's case, the whole oven would have to be 300 degrees, so everything melts.
There's nowhere to sink the heat away from, so I think it probably would work. Yeah.
Yeah, it would work. So, yeah. It works better if you have, I think, a wider tip on your iron as well. I did it with like a little point tip, and it took forever.
Okay.
I don't even like soldering like regular headers with the tips.
Yeah, it took me like an hour to solder those 8 legs on.
wow.
But I was learning the process. By the time I got it took me like 40 minutes for the first 4, and then 20 minutes for the last 4, because it was like I was trying to figure out, am I hot enough? No, okay. Crank it up, and then I have like a Weller soldering iron, and I had that thing just maxed out.
I wonder for something like that, would you be better off at like a physical thing, like the tab that bends and then is screwed in or something?
Yeah, I thought about that. For ease of manufacturing, it's better it was better to not have any curves in it. So like in order to have like a mechanical connection, like the leg would have to come up and then make a 90. So that either means that like I'm doing a bunch of bending on the metal brake outside, or and then you have the issue of like where do you get all the hardware to tighten it down with, right? Because all those it's going to take nuts and bolts or screws, or you have to figure out how to get like lugs into the PC board, and so that's a bit beyond my capabilities of figuring out how to order and get in, and then it just takes parts cost even higher.
So every cent you save from like a board like that is, it sounds small. Like you go, a screw and a nut is like a cent each or whatever, but like suddenly if you run out of those things, you can't like ship it anymore because you have to
each item you add, you also have to sort, pick up, count, label, baggy. Whatever. So it's a lot more involved than people think.
And so like that's why I was saying it's just like, hey, get your soldering iron stupid hot and be patient. Like
Put it there.
Yeah, get a thick tip for your soldering iron. I have a 5mm tip to solder like super thick aluminum cables or these multi-stranded wires, and that's way easier. Like to solder to some like 4mm connectors or something, or 5mm connectors. 5mm tip, like chisel tip, is super good for this.
Yeah, you're just trying to get as much heat into it as possible, and so like a wider tip can transfer more heat in. So, yeah, it's not ideal, but it keeps the parts cost from exploding. And it's obviously doable because I'm an idiot and I managed it. So,
yeah, and if it solders properly, it's probably pretty strong too.
No being mean. Yeah. No being mean to ourselves.
So David, can we buy anything from your shop?
Not yet, no, because nothing works.
Okay, but
I don't have anything actually working yet.
We will.
This is close. The 555 is close, and so as soon as the next revision comes in, if it all checks out, that'll be 10 boards that at least half of them are already spoken for.
Okay. So all the interested people, you go to Usagi Electric and subscribe, follow, and on Twitter you will be notified when it's ready.
It's ready someday. Yeah. Coming soon. Trademark, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, David.
Thank you, guys.
Can you go next? Can you go next? I'm really close. Yeah,
no, I can go next.
Quinn. Oh, Brian starts. Brian is not finished with his 5-minute project that he's preparing right now as we speak.
The talk is way too interesting. I'm not. Like I said,
nothing is happening.
I just can't focus on it.
Okay, I'll give you another 10-15 minutes. Okay.
Brian invented a PCB that replaces a 0 ohm resistor.
And I'll sell 100,000 of them.
Nice.
Okay, let's continue with Quinn.
Yeah, so I'm Quindor from a YouTube channel called Intermittent Technology. I also have a Twitter, and I'm partially also well known for my website quinled.info, and that's kind of the first thing I wanted to show today. And I'm going to see if I can real-time swap cameras. I think I did it. So the Quinn LED modules, I have to find where it is. There we go. They're LED driving modules, basically. So if you don't want to mess around with an ESP8266 and DuPont wires and things like that, but you're looking more for having a actually, I have to do it like that. Sorry, a permanent LED installation. My Quinn LED boards basically can provide that for you. So you have a screw terminal and you have fuse protection. The capacitor you kind of need is on there. It has all kinds of stuff on the back. So there's 2 level shifters, because although this is called a Dig Uno, it's actually kind of a Dig Duo now. But and I recently, actually this week, released the newest version of those, and these now have a completely custom DC buck boost circuit on there. So it'll take anything from 5 volt to 24 volt in. Do everything correctly for the onboard electronics. So even if you're running 12 volt LEDs or 24 volt LEDs, it no longer matters. The board will automatically work, as I call it. You can even use multiple power sources to keep the board online while using a relay to switch the LEDs off and stuff like that. And so I've been busy with that for the last few months, actually. This is the bigger brother, basically, the Dig Quad, as I call it. So this has 4 output channels, actually secretly 5 nowadays. But it has a lot more fuses to do power distribution on the board, basically. So that, as I said, if you want to build a permanent installation with addressable LEDs, you can do it in a safe way. And you can easily wire it up, so no more DuPont cables and stuff like that. And then as part of that, these just come off. And I developed, I think I showed this on Brian's stream at some point. Let me see if I can get this off. Almost. Yeah, there we go. So I developed my own custom ESP32 development board, basically. It's just using a WRU module, but then it has some beefed up stuff like capacitors and a good voltage regulator. It has ESD protection. It has a USB-C port because I don't know why, but ESPs still come with micro USB ports, and I hate those. And
I like
the
that.
most
Got a USB-C. That's awesome. Because I feel the same way. I'm like, why?
exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, there's been time to update these boards. So I designed my own board, and the thing that will be released in about 2 weeks or so is basically this top hat, although it'll be sold as a whole unit. And then it adds 10/100 Ethernet capabilities to the ESP32. And those will work with the new Quinn LED boards. And so now I have 3 ESP32s you can choose from, either with the board antenna, as you see here, that's this thing sticking out, with an external antenna, and I don't have one here, or with Ethernet. And, well, you can drive your LEDs using the boards and connect it to Ethernet, and especially if you're doing real-time pixel informations. Let me switch cameras again. There we go. So if you're doing anything real-time, like driving it with ArcNet or E131, you kind of really want the Ethernet-connected version, since that makes driving like 1,200 or 1,500 LEDs using the boards a lot smoother over the network than Wi-Fi does.
One question there.
Sure.
Does the ESP32 have Ethernet capabilities built in the IC, or is it software emulated?
It has it built in, but you need an external MAC. So
Okay.
it has an external chip, the LAN 8720A, and that's basically everything you need. I can
That's like a fixed address. The ESP32 doesn't have a fixed address that's unique on the planet. So okay.
Yeah, so you need a physical translation layer basically, and that's what this chip does. So as you can see here, it's basically all the way around. It's basically this single chip. That's the LAN chip. And then there's a lot of passes around it and stuff like that, and you need to take into account differential signaling and all kinds of stuff to get Ethernet working. But yeah, basically it's all centered around this single chip you connect to the ESP32.
Oh, cool. And the drivers, are these available for the Ethernet? Are these available
so in
Arduino IDE and so on?
In the IDF, the normal IDF, that works fine. There's libraries for Arduino and stuff like that. I've even done iPerf tests because the IDF has an iPerf library you can compile for it, and it does about 70 to 80 megabits of UDP. TCP it won't do because then it only does about 20, 25. But UDP, you can actually get some decent speeds. But I wouldn't really, use it for that purpose. But if we're talking like 10 megabits of real-time pixel data, for instance, to push it through, it's all hardware accelerated, and the pixel drivers are done using the RMT interfaces. So using WLED, for instance, and you've done some videos about that too. That works brilliantly, and I've tested it with 1,200, 1,500 LEDs going over multiple outputs, and you can drive lots of LEDs with real-time information from X lights and for doing shows and all kinds of stuff. So,
driving huge LED walls.
That too. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So if you don't want the input for the LEDs from the ESP32 itself, but you want it generated externally, then I'd absolutely use Ethernet because the difference is very noticeable.
Cool.
So yeah. So that's the first thing I wanted to show you. I think most people who know me already know I do lots of LED stuff and do the board and stuff like that. But I actually released the updated board video this week. So the big changes were the integrated DC buck boost circuits. And well, there's all kinds of small changes, but yeah. I have a DIY version, so I have Gerbers you can have made by PCBWay and dirty PCBs, and complete guides with components and soldering guides and stuff like that. So you can build a DIY. That's still a version behind. I'll be working on updating that. And then you can buy them pre-assembled, and the ESP32 and the Ethernet only come pre-assembled because that uses all SMD and 0402, and I really wouldn't want to subject people at home to do that. And yeah, so I saw a PoE question. That's kind of a running gag for people on my channel. No, it does not do PoE. Because if I Yeah, but because if I'd have to integrate a PoE circuit with a isolated transformer on there, and then you'd maybe want 2 to 4 amps of 5 volt, for instance, coming out of it, it would basically be bigger than all boards combined. And so currently the function on currently it's just an Ethernet function, but I have done a video and I have actually an article where I test out some of those PoE extractor boxes you can buy in AliExpress. You can buy them from $4 to $20, and those from $4, they're fine to keep the controller online while you turn your main power supply off to save on power, because a digital LED, even if you turn it off so it doesn't shine any light, it'll still use power. And with a relay on the big power supply and then PoE feeding the board using one of those extractors, that works fine for with a $4 or $5 PoE extractor. And I've also tested $20 PoE extractors, and those can deliver 5 volt 4 amps. And on 5 volt 4 amps, or maybe let's say 3 amps or 15 watts, you can actually run a decent amount of LEDs. Not like 600, I wouldn't advise that. But if you want to run like 100, 150 LEDs, with 15 watt, you can do pretty much. I mean, doing effects and all this kind of stuff, and as long as you don't do pure white, they're pretty efficient. So no PoE on the board, but I have an article and a live stream where I tested out to show you a solution where you can still use PoE and drive LEDs. So
cool.
Yeah,
that's one thing that I was thinking about. If I do like board that drives that uses PoE and only that to drive LEDs, then you can only like have a really limited amount of LEDs that you can drive, especially if you want to drive them like in RGB and full brightness. It's like you're done with 16 LEDs or something.
The box that manages 4 amps is this big. It's literally bigger than my board is. I mean, because there has to be a giant transformer in there and caps and all kinds of stuff to make it stable.
Yeah, and 4 amps are basically 40 LEDs.
Depends on how you calculate that and if you want white or not. But
RGBW would be a different thing, but if you do only, it's like limited amount of LEDs, so it wouldn't make sense without an additional power supply, and then you have to ask the question why spend like the components alone are so expensive, and why not
you'd
put
be
on
developing something for a very
a
niche solution, which can easily be solved by just getting a ready-made product and plugging that in. I mean, and although I do mass production for the boards and stuff like that, I probably couldn't make it as cheap as the external solution already is. So, I decided against that. I mean, for IoT solutions, I mean, like the board you're building, if it only needs to deliver 1 or 2 watts, just like 5 volts or something like that, or 3.3 volts for a sensor or a button or something like that, sure, that I can see working with PoE. But then Alimax already has a great board for that. There's nothing to develop if it's already out there and perfect. And as I said, you're working on the RP 4020 or 2040, 4020?
I don't know either.
But 24, okay. That new Raspberry Pi CPU. And so for IoT purposes, I can see that. And that doesn't exist, so that's a good thing to develop. But in this case, the months of development and testing and all kinds of stuff that comes with PoE, I decided against that. Just use the external box if you want it. So, did any questions come in about the LED stuff? I see Johnny Bergdahl say PoE Plus is 30 watts. Yeah, except no, you can use about 25 effectively, but then you have to like buck convert it from 50 to 5 volts, so that's a 10-fold reduction. So maybe you get 20 watts, as I said. Sorry, somebody was started to talk.
I'm just like I'm trying to figure out what the end game is here. So like this is an LED driver. Is there like a specific application in mind, or is the idea to be as universal as popular as possible?
You can run any software on it you want because it's an ESP32. But currently, the WLED software is very popular, and I like it a lot. And it basically can use all the functions that I have on my boards, basically. So if you want ready-made software instead of running some Sketch or Fast LED or something like that, take a look at WLED, and they'll give you a web interface and the network interfaces, and it's basically plug and play.
So maybe you can show your background. There are there you can see there are these addressable LEDs, so you can maybe do decorations like that in your room.
Yeah. So this one is with a.
Oh, sorry.
This one is with a big quad showing the. I don't know how to point my finger. Anyway, showing the 4 outputs doing something different, and then we have a 12-volt bullet style pixels in the back, and nope. Over there we have another LED strip which has 200 LEDs per meter, and well, it's not really visible, but I have, for instance, this heart light here, which you buy it on AliExpress, and then I replaced all the guts and put a Quinn LED inside, and now it has, well, addressable LEDs. The effect doesn't really show up on camera, but yeah.
That is so cool. I love LEDs and I want to put them in everything, but I'm like electronics stupid. I don't know anything about electronics, and so it all seems like crazy chaos to me. Yes, I am excited.
I have these boards. You can buy them pre-assembled. You just screw in the power, you screw in the LEDs, done.
I can do that. That is a silly level.
We've got a not safe for work collaboration coming up.
Hell yeah! Yes.
These are not body safe rated.
Okay. No, that's awesome because more rainbows, more better in my world.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
It's Pride Month, so rainbow.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Very true.
Hey, and WLED actually has a Pride effect.
Yeah,
oh, that's awesome.
It's pre-programmed just to select. Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah, well, I'll have to get some of those then, so I can put LEDs in all the things.
Sure. So there's if that's all questions about the LED stuff, I had something else to share prepared because I do lots of stuff, and let's share my screen. And I don't do only LED stuff. I do a lot of LED stuff, but not only. So here's my website, and it's linked in the description. And recently, I've maybe this is a controversial topic too. I've begun farming or mining crypto again. Every few years, I dabble with crypto, and there's a new crypto called Chia. And what Chia is, it's a proof of time and space protocol, I guess you could say. But we're not going to talk about the crypto itself because although it's partially interesting, I only like the technical stuff about it. And basically for Chia, you need to have a lot of hard drives. The more petabytes you have or terabytes you have, the better. And so I was running 15 external disks, and each disk has an adapter. But then I have a USB hub, which also has an adapter. And then I had some fans to cool the disks. Those also had adapters. So to run 15 disks, I had about 19 adapters plugged in. And of course, those adapters don't fit next to each other on the power bars. So you need like 5 power bars for 19 adapters. And I was like, okay, I'm done with this shit. So I took out my my trusty wire ferrules and spade connectors and fork connectors and stuff like that. And I made a blog post about it using these. Let me see if I have a better picture. Well, there's these fuse distribution blocks you can get. They're kind of from the automotive side of things. Where you can just put in a lot of fuses. These are 12 spaces, and then you have a plus and a minus rail, and you can have the plus rail go through the fuses. So it's like, okay, let's replace 19 adapters, and let's, make the wires nice. So I get these 2-wire screw-in plugs, so you don't have to do any soldering, and those are 5.5 by 2.5, so those fit the drives automatically. And I put these nice spade connectors on there, crimp them on. And then you screw that all into the fuse block. And then instead of having 19 adapters, you just have 19 cables, which are all fused independently. And you take 1, 3, or 400 watt big power supply. And, well, it saves a lot of space. And it's actually, it's the same amount of safety or more, because now you have a fuse per connection. But I guess the adapter itself would also have a fuse per connection. I don't know about that. So I chopped up some fan wires to easily be able to attach fans, and I show you how to connect your power supply. It's just an LED power supply because, hey, guess what? I have a lot of those. And so this is the kind of the end result. So this is 10 connections. This is 5 connections for the 15 discs. And I was testing it out here, using multimeter. It all looked good. And you have to have the disk plugged in using USB, because otherwise the disks don't spin up. But basically, it's just a blog post of, this was only 9 disks. And it's like 2 power bars and everything stacked on top of each other and one giant cable mess. And I replaced it with this. And yeah, it's a easy system to do. And in the end, there's still cables. I got a 16-port USB hub. We were talking about that before the show. So everything is linked to the computer over a single USB 3 connection. But for the farming, as they call it in Chia, you don't really need any bandwidth. It just needs to know the files are there, basically. So you can still use USB connections. And in the end, it kind of looks like this. It's still, kind of bulky. But if I would have had 15 or 19 adapters over here, I don't know where I would have had to put all the cables.
That's also tidy. I'm envious of that. If you see all the mess behind me.
Well, this camera is oriented very specifically.
So it's only for camera then. Okay.
Yeah.
Y'all
So,
need
yeah,
my
that-
organization plug. I made a post about how to tidy up your crap from a maker with ADHD, because I have ADHD, and I'm like, how to make it pretty. I have a blog post. Check it out.
This camera cannot move a little bit to the left or the right, because then you'll see all the clutter.
Yeah, I also
Mine's
clean.
very neat.
I show it on camera.
Yeah.
There's my mess.
I just put the camera in a different room. Like, we're not even going to go.
Oops. Oh, sorry.
I got put backstage.
Sorry.
Trouble.
It was I was clicking away the screen share. Sorry.
So Michael asks, you're mining too? Well, I'm farming, as they call it. So basically on Chia, you plot, and that needs some CPU power and SSD NVMe drives. And once that is done, you get a 100 gigabyte file, and you put that on your slow rust storage, so hard disks, and then you farm those. And it basically just checks if the network does a proof every so many seconds. And if you happen to hit that proof and have the correct hash and stuff like that, you get a reward for that. So I guess that's what they normally call farming. Yes, I have won some Chia, Bruxus.
So Chia, in your case, it's not about like figuring out some huge mathematical equation. It's just like somebody's borrowing your backyard to put a boatload of data.
Yeah, but the data is random. So the data itself has no value. So it's still a mathematical hash, but it's not CPU power that you have to prove it with. It's with having the space and time, basically. So you have to have the space, and you need to respond within 30 seconds, and that's the time part of it.
Okay. So that's why, because you said you didn't need a whole lot of bandwidth, you just needed the space.
Yeah.
And I was like, that seemed strange to me.
I can imagine it's basically like filling your hard drive with random numbers and then calculating the hash and transmitting the hash and checking if it matches the last digit or anything.
Once a proof hits, it does 64 reads over the plot, basically. So over that 100 gigabyte, and that basically has to match with the hash of the plot and then the data that should be there.
So it's
and then you can prove to the network that you have that. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But there's no RAID involved or parity or mirrors or anything like that, because the data itself is invaluable. So you just have a bunch of single disks, And if a disk fails, well, you just put new plots on it. Who cares?
Okay, great.
Yeah, so I like doing that stuff from a technical standpoint, and I've done some videos about that. And it's not really about the crypto itself for me, because it's kind of risky subject often. But I just like the technical and the system admin and the electrical stuff, and yeah.
I like
It's
the
funny.
tight cables.
Yeah.
For sure. Tidy cables are always great.
Yeah, cable
funny,
management.
Yeah.
It's become really taboo. Like, as in, when crypto was big back in 2017, it was like, people either didn't understand it or were like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. But now, like, you see people release like videos on NFTs and stuff, and the dislike ratio is crazy. And in fairness, like, I think Bitcoin uses like 1/200th of the world's power or something. Like, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, so
Holy cow.
the Chia is from Bram Cohen, and he was also the developer of BitTorrent, as we probably all know. And one of his basic selling points, they also don't have a white paper, they have a green paper, is that this is the green cryptocurrency, because it doesn't use either CPU, GPU, or ASIC power. You just have to have a 14 terabyte disk spinning.
So people just purchasing all the disks.
Oh, hey, check your shops. I don't think you'll be able to buy any anymore.
Yeah, I have like a ton of old hard drives that I'm not using anymore because they're too small or something. Might put
So
them
I
in use
have
again.
about half a petabyte spinning right now.
Oh wow!
Full of YouTube videos.
And part of that is full of YouTube videos. About 15 terabytes, I think. Yeah.
I just
I have 1 terabyte and it's still not even remotely full of YouTube videos.
Oh no!
You're doing great with the compression. I'm like,
I just delete stuff. I'm a deleter. I'm
no.
like,
I have the
use
original
that.
footage of my first YouTube video
I'm
from
not
3-4
a
years
deleter.
ago.
I'll tell you how
What am I
bad.
gonna do with it? Like, I
Yeah.
made the YouTube video. If I wanted to make it again, I would have gotten so much better that I want to refilm it again. So like, fuck it,
Yeah,
delete.
look, Billy, your logic is sound. I get you, right? But it's just not. It's not me, right? I used to be a moderator on a forum like in Ireland that I used to use, and I stopped being a moderator years ago. And they used to give you more like private message space if you were a moderator, because all the reports went there and stuff like that. And when I wasn't a moderator anymore, like I went from 5,000 to 500, and I didn't have the room for all the PMs that were in my inbox, and there was no way to delete all of them. So that was fine. But just there the other day, like I went, oh, I actually need to receive a private message on that thing. And like they have a delete all button. And I was kind of like, maybe I should back this up. I was like, wait, like why? These are like reports from like 2014 of like somebody called another guy a poo-poo head or whatever. Like, what am I going to do with this? So I did actually delete it, but I felt real bad about it.
Oh, well, I'm proud of you.
Yeah, no, I'm a data hoarder in that sense. I still have every digital picture I ever took. I have all the original footage of every video I've ever made. But I don't mind. I mean, you spend like €300 for a 14 terabyte hard disk, and the past 10 years fits on that. So it's not that expensive. I mean, the half a petabyte I have running with random crap on it, which then suddenly generates magic coins.
it's very
You can
green.
debate about that.
Sounds very green.
Data storage just doesn't make sense to me anymore, because like I recently bought a mini computer from 1979 or 1980. It's a little questionable, and it has some old control data hard disks in it, which have one platter in it and a removable platter. And I think each hard disk weighs about 45 pounds, and I think each platter holds like 12 megabytes.
Oh,
That's like before IDE, so that's what's that called again?
I don't know if there is. I'm sure it has a standard name, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's like a
massive.
precursor for SCSI. I don't remember the name.
I've got a picture of it here. I don't know if I can share.
Because I love storage stuff. That's why I like the Chia coin, because I like doing storage. I do storage for my work, and
there's a
it's
share
funny. I
button.
now have more storage at home than a lot of my clients.
So I don't know if you guys can see this.
Whoa! Is this your garage?
I can't zoom in too well.
That's
So
cool.
I need to move to Texas.
So this is my mini computer, but the hard drives.
What?
So this is one hard drive here, and then this is the other hard drive up here.
Holy shit!
16 megabytes, was it?
Yeah, this on the right, this big thing on the right is a printer, and it easily weighs like 300 pounds, 250 pounds or something.
That's
it's like
smaller
the
than
biggest
most Xeroxes, though. It's still
Yeah.
smaller.
So we have
so cool, the monitors. Oh my
three
God.
data terminals, and these are just like dumb terminals. So it's just like it just sends serial data over a 20 milliamp
They're huge.
current loop. And you
Oh
can
my
see
God.
the
real tapes.
yeah, these are the removable platters. So inside each
Removable
one of these
platters.
boxes is
What a
like an
concept.
actual hard disk platter.
These were the original USB stick.
Yeah.
That's
Bringing these
cool.
into college.
And so you can kind of get
Here's my
a
homework.
view of this is one hard drive right here.
What
So you
the-
put
okay,
a
I never
removable
worked with
platter
that
on
kind
the
of
top,
stuff.
and then there's a platter that's internal underneath it.
So when it starts to spin, like your lights dim, or I mean,
I don't know. I haven't actually powered it up yet. I'm kind of scared of it. Like a lot needs to be checked, but yeah, it does draw a lot of power.
you think
Like the ratings on the back are a little crazy. So there
it
we go.
doesn't have
We'll
an
go back to-
integrated
we'll go
diesel
back to me.
engine? I mean,
Yeah.
How do
So
the keyboards feel?
uh,
Are they nice?
they feel like a keyboard that's been left outside for 30 years.
If you press a button, it stays there.
But like they'd
Uh.
be nice. They'd be mechanical switches, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're mechanical switches. So one of the data terminals I plugged in was able to start up and have self-echo. So whatever I typed would show up on the terminal. And it actually turned on. And while the keys did feel a little mushy, every key worked. So that tells me that it has to be mechanical, because there's no way that like a foam
the
and
dome would
foil
have
or
disintegrated like
a rubber dome would last that long.
no.
That's
So-
awesome.
Yeah.
And
So when
you were-
when you showed your data farm where you have half a petabyte of storage going on, just know that all of your half a petabyte of data storage weighs less
Oh,
than
for
my
sure.
10 megabytes.
I'd take that bet for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
It took two of us to lift one of those hard drives out of the chassis, and then we had to like
That's
shuffle it over to a workbench.
I mean, that's how
Wow.
far we've come. I mean, this is 128 gigabytes. Like, well, we have a USB stick here. This is 128 gigabytes too. So
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I mean, how insane is that, right? Yeah.
It's
I
not.
mean, and you can get down to like what micro SD? What's the tiny one that like barely
Micro
fits
SD?
on
Yeah,
mic?
yeah, yeah.
Micro SD. You can get those in like 1 terabyte now.
yeah,
right?
that's the one. Bitluni has one.
yeah.
Yeah,
There we go. I didn't even
terabytes.
see it. It's so
I
small.
learned
I
that
didn't
the hard
notice
way.
it.
They don't work on 3D printers though. I learned that the hard way. You get like if you get a too bigger storage space on the micro SD, then it's like formatted differently, and they don't work on the 3D printer.
How many G codes are you going to fit? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of G code.
I don't know. I just thought
You
you know
can
it's
print.
handy to have.
This print will take 5 years and 2 months.
I just thought it's handy to have because you could use it for other stuff. Like I may as well, but then it didn't work. So yeah, don't do that.
That's actually, it's a kind of a problem for like Arduinos with SD cards too, that you kind of need small ones, like, and it's getting harder to get the smaller ones.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you go to Amazon, like the standard one now is like 16 gigs, and
It's
Yeah,
like
more expensive. Like
to buy the,
yeah,
the
fraction of
small
the-
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the 16 gig and the 32 gig cost the exact same or
Yeah.
something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's such a
Cool.
tangent.
So, well, that kind of, unless there's questions, that kind of was my my part thing.
Yeah, sorry for
David
the.
has a lot more to show than he
interlude.
gave credit for. Is Brian done?
Yeah,
Brian,
okay.
have you done anything in the meantime?
We're just
Yeah, I
stalling
have.
so Brian
I
can
got-
finish what he's working on.
I got a quick intermezzo. I got the acknowledgement, the ACK from the quiz master in the background. He has the quiz already prepared. So, but we have two more people to go. And I also want to thank to the people that sent super stickers. Thank you for that. And the people are enjoying the stream. We have cool people here, so cool guests. And let's continue with Brian, who obviously has prepared something with some LED comments in the chat. Brian,
Yeah.
what is this all about?
Oh, cool. I need to join the stream. Where is it?
So a while back, I tried to get
Who
interaction. Who am I?
Who is this man?
I don't even remember anymore. So my name is Brian Lough, and I'm a maker from Ireland. No, that's a joke. My name is actually Brian Lough. I'm a maker from Ireland, and I normally work with ESP32 and ESP8266 stuff, normally around integrating with APIs and things like that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So the first project that I want to show is a while back I was trying to get an interaction with the chat, the live chat in YouTube directly on an ESP8266 or ESP32, because if you ever see like Twitch channels, they have like some of them have this like really cool integration where there's a guy called the Other Lone Star who used to have like all the stuff where like you could do a dance party and it would change the lights in his room, and he even had two battle bots at one stage where like the chat could control the bots like against each other and stuff like that, and that's way better on Twitch than it is on YouTube. So I just want to set the expectations. You'll never have that. But you won't even have that like not on an ESP8266. Like if you were using a computer, like their API is just not as good. Twitch uses like a type of IRC to connect to the chat, I think. And like YouTube, you have to use the API, and they tell you how like I need you to back off for a certain amount of time and things like that. So So anyways, I tried to get that working, and it didn't work because the minimum amount of chats you can request back is 100, and like there's 30 data points or something on each chat, which seems like a lot because you'd imagine it'd be like person, chat. That's it.
So first, it's not extensive enough, and then it's too extensive.
Yeah, it's like basically you can ask for like details about the chat itself. So like what is the text that's there and some other things. And then you need to ask for details about the person, and it's like telling you their channel ID and all sorts of other stuff. So it ends up there's like 25 data points, and like for 100 chats, which is the minimum you can ask for back, that would use up maybe about like, I don't know, even 100,000 bytes of data, maybe. I can't even, I don't even know the figures of it, but basically too much. But since I last looked at it, Arduino JSON, the library I use for parsing JSON into something you can use on the ESP, implemented a filter, which you can basically say, hey, I care about the name property, I care about the text or the message text, and I care about if they're a moderator, and I don't care about anything else. Just don't even try parse it. And it will just skip all the other stuff. And that brings down the memory consumption by like a factor of at least 10. So that now brings you into a scenario where you can parse everything on it. So while bitluni was streaming the other night, making his RP 2040, thankfully he was streaming so long, it gave me plenty of time to test. I got something working, and I'm hoping it's still working now. I have a problem, which I'll talk about in a second, but where is this? Can you make me bigger, bitluni?
Yes,
maybe?
I make you huge.
Okay. So you can see I have some traffic lights here, and I want the chat. The chat have been trying to guess what the messages are that they need to use to change it. Somebody just got it there. So yeah, it's there's red, orange, green. So if you do bang red or bang green or bang orange, you will change the traffic light to that. And so that's what I was trying to get working during the stream there. But
That's
Thankfully,
awesome.
it is working. Yeah, so it's funny that you know the way I was saying, like the it can take up to 100. That's
Oh no, I've been spam banned.
Whoops. Like, so this is fairly untested. You know, it's working now, but I don't know how it would handle like a really busy chat and things like that. Like,
We will find out.
Get busy,
Yeah.
everyone.
yeah, we'll probably find it's like you know, the way I was saying, it's not that responsive, the YouTube one, because you have to back off when it tells you to. Like part of the response it gives you back to every API is, I need you to back off for this amount of time. And like, so it's not very responsive. So like you can see it changing a lot here, but I have no idea who's changing it, you know, like, so what I do is, like, if there's 100 messages back, I do not go through the 100 messages. I just take like the 5 or 10 most recent ones and go like, okay, if I find a red in that, okay, cool. You know, like let's go with that. So yeah, that's that, and I'm happy that it's working. I am having one problem with it that I need to get to the bottom of, and this was one of the reasons it took me so long to set it up, is I keep getting, my API key keeps running out of credits, and I don't know why. Like, as far as I know, the request in a chat is no credits. So I have no idea why my API keys are running out of credit. So like I'm going to Google and creating a new project nearly every time I need to use this. I need to get to the bottom of why that's happening. So there's you know the way I was saying it's a bad setup. Well, one of the things you need to do. So the first thing is, like, we're live on bitluni's channel, right? And bitluni's channel stays, the channel ID stays constant. And the video ID of the stream changes every time he streams, right? But so what you need to do is, the first thing you need to do is take the channel ID and perform a search to get the video ID. And that is really expensive on credits, but that also doesn't work for me anymore, which we'll get into. So like, I'm not doing that. So that's not what's happening. You then need to take the video ID, which you can see at the top of the browser there as well. Like, it's not a secret or anything. It's the thing after the V. You need to take that video ID and then look up to get the live chat ID. And then you can use that live chat ID to poll to get the chat from that. But what I've done now as well is, because that search is so expensive from a quota point of view, I've implemented scraping YouTube's webpage to find out the video ID instead. So you can do that for free. And as a kind of a consequence of that now as well, can you make me full screen, Looney?
Sure.
So sorry about my big messy desk.
So you're basically parsing the website and see if the channel has a current live stream going on, or?
Yes. So you can see here, it's not going to be good quality, but so bitluni's up the top there, Brian's down the bottom. We're obviously live on bitluni's channel and we're not live on mine. And you can see it's found that bitluni is live and Brian is not live. But what this, so this was kind of a happy accident. Like, I did this scraping to get the video ID so I could do the chat stuff. But what this enables now is it allows you to build like a display of some description that like has everybody who live streams, you know, like represented by something. You know, you could have an LED for each person or whatever. And when they go live, because, you know, this isn't rate limited, this is the public YouTube API or public YouTube website. Like, so you could check every 5 seconds for whoever. Like, you could have a thing, oh, Billy's live now, or bitluni's live, Xeon's live, or whoever, you know, which was not possible before, because, as I mentioned, like, you could only make, or did I mention that search? You could only do like 100 a day, which is nothing. So yep, that's pretty cool.
That's really cool. I love the whole project. Like, and yeah, like it would definitely, like someone said in the chat, it would drive super chats to be able to affect something in real life because people love that. Like, still being able to do something over the internet. That's awesome. What a cool thing.
Yeah, so super chats I think are a different thing, and I need to add that in. So I will get to it at some stage for the super chats. But yeah, like I think that's a pretty fun thing to do. Like yeah, have something going on. Like I said, the traffic lights are interactive, and it's just some fun. Like maybe you could have like a GIF player behind you or something, and people could send their gifts, or probably not send a gift to it because who knows what they'd send. But like select from a choice number of curated gifts.
Could you like pull like the 10 most recent commands or whatever you call them, where like somebody says exclamation point green, could you like pull like 10 of them and then pick whichever one had been said the most out of those?
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Because then, if you can do that, because then you could theoretically turn it into like some, like
a voting
chat play game or something like that. Like, they say up, down, left, or right, and then whichever one is
chat plays Pokemon.
That's a great
there
idea.
we go. Yeah,
that'd
be awesome.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Like that 10 as well is kind of arbitrary. Like I'm sure you could bump that up to like. You could potentially even do all 100. I'm not sure. Like, as in, like, you'd get to a stage where, like, when you do the first request for chats and you get your 100 back, they give you like basically a breadcrumb to say like, okay, the last message I see is from Wagon Loads, and he says, has anyone got an ESP to communicate with whatever he says there? And like that would be, you'd get, the next time you made a request, you get everything since that. And if there's only 5 messages, there's only 5 messages, as in, so unless the chat was really busy, then you'll only get like 10 or 5 or whatever the next time. But yeah, like if there's games or something that people can think of, just remember that, like, so somebody was saying, I think, I can't remember in the Discord, like, oh, you could play Pong. Like, Pong would not work because it's not responsive.
Snakes.
Yeah.
Would have to be real time.
Yeah, like it'd have to be some form of like voting game or
like a turn-based something, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like I don't know. There's definitely something fun that can be done with this. So yeah,
definitely.
That's really cool, man.
I love it. Yeah.
So another project I'd like to talk about is the traffic lights before I like bastardize them into whatever this is. These were actually for my kids. Pretty much this exact project, except the lights just changed color automatically, not by YouTube comments. So this same thing where basically it just went red for a little while, then did whatever, how traffic lights work. And that was just for like, when they're cycling their little trikes around the kitchen and stuff. And yeah, it's a bit of fun. It's on a regular like camera tripod, and I just 3D printed a little mount, and I attached I think it's a 3/4 inch to 1/4 inch adapter. I think 1/4 inch is the tripod screw type. So I screwed that into the 3D print, and it worked kind of well. I think it's not a bad idea for a source of like 1/4 inch adapters. But I think the hole is probably a little bit too small, or it would probably also benefit with me screwing it in while it was hot or something, But like literally, that's my first print of it, and I just want to show how terrible this is. That mightn't turn back on now, so sorry everybody. But where's my camera? Up there. You probably won't be able to see it, but like that print lifted so bad, but like it was good enough to work. So I'm a big fan of just using it while you can. Yeah, so that's like I love taking every shortcut I possibly can with a project. Like, so these matrix panels, you buy them as this matrix panel. You don't have to like attach any like LEDs to a background structure or anything. They're just ready to go. So I like them a lot. And then so this, what's the easiest way to get height on something is just an existing tripod, and so that's good. And then, sorry, bitluni, I have one last final thing, unless people have questions on anything I've rambled upon so
Just
far.
comments. Great. Super cute. I love it. That's really fun for your kids.
Cool. Thank you. Okay, so the last thing then is related to this in some way, but so let me just get the focus. Sorry.
That's a nice bodge wire you have there.
So I'll explain a little bit about that bodge wire in a second, because it's actually not that needed. Right. So where are we? There we go. That's pretty good. Yeah. So this is my ESP32 Trinity board that I've been making. So this will be an open source ESP32 board for controlling these matrix panels. If you are familiar with the boards I sell on Tindy and stuff, it's basically this I2S matrix shield with the ESP32 built into it. And it also has some additional features, such as like you can power it from USB-C. It has a fuse built into the USB-C line, so you can't do more, or you can't draw. I think it's 1.5 amps is the limit on that fuse, just to like protect the USB. And you can also bypass that fuse if you want. And then there's things like there's a touch pad here and here, just for a simple way of doing input if you want it. And yeah, a couple of other things. This is not the final revision. I'm expecting the final revision on Tuesday. It's a holiday here in Ireland tomorrow. Well, sorry, I'm expecting what I hope is the final revision on Tuesday, but who knows? The one coming on Tuesday is the third one, though. So
there you go. Third time's a charm, right?
Dave, when you were saying, I remember something Brian taught me. I was like, what the hell did I tell Dave about anything? Because I do not know anything. But yeah, so the bodge wire was a test. Basically, that is like a status LED, or like an LED that's connected to a GPIO. And it was, if I didn't define the pin to be an output, it would float on. Like, as in, if I didn't set GPIO pin 2 to be an output pin, it would be on the LED. And I didn't see that on other boards, so I was kind of trying to debug why that might happen. And I was wondering, the GPIO goes on a pretty long journey around the board, and I was wondering if that was the issue. So that's what the jumper wire is about, but that wasn't it. So I'm still a little bit confused to what's going on with that. So I'm just going to ignore it and hope it goes away forever.
I think GPIO2 is used in the boot process, so you'd want to have that high, because if you pull it low, it might change the boot mode.
Yeah, I think it's pull low is what it is on the boot process. But like these, I can't remember, but like these boards, which are kind of similar in size to yours, I don't know why it won't.
Oh yeah, mine is based to replace that one because they are crappy so often.
Yeah, exactly. But like that has its LED on GPIO2.
That's true. Yeah.
As well. And I'm really confused why like mine behaves any different to that one. But yeah, my next revision has 0603 LEDs as opposed to 0402. And I have basically any color of 0603. So I want to try, like, is that a problem? Like it's currently a green LED or something, on it. Like, that's pretty bright. Maybe if you switch to a blue one, like the voltage that just happens to be there won't be enough to turn the blue one on, maybe. So we'll see. But I'm not it's not a showstopper for me. If the issue was like, hey, if you don't set that to be an output, it may be on. That's like, that's okay with me. Like, ideally not, but whatever.
Well, I guess you can just define it then. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Like if you put in your code, like, pin mode to like output, that's it gone. It does exactly what you expect it to do after that. Like, so it's not really an issue at all. So yeah, that's going to be a open source board when it's finished and released.
Cool.
So yeah, looking forward to that, and building a few projects for those things. Has the LED connected to VCC? Yeah, it's an active low LED, so GPIO is toggling the cathode side.
Oh, okay. Okay. When do we when can we expect it in your Tindy store? This board.
So this version is kind of an evolution of what you were doing before, just more integrated, basically.
Yeah, like you said, these aren't great in terms of like reliability.
Oh man!
Like,
last year, December and to January this year, we had a batch of 1,000, and 35% were faulty.
That's like I saw 10% with some orders, but never 35%. Like that's
nuts.
That's crazy.
So I got so pissed off and built my own module.
Yeah. and like, it's better as well from a point of view of in January or February, I did that thing with Smarter Every Day for his live stream for charity, and like he was talking to me and he was like, hey, would you sell these like as they are? Like they're pretty cool. And I was like, like, oh, you have to solder the kits and stuff like that. And he was like, oh, yeah, I suppose. And I was like, okay, well, if I make an all-inclusive one, it opens the possibility of like more people getting into it. Like I have a lot of friends who would like to play with, something like the Matrix panel, and they don't know how to solder or anything.
That's the exact reason why this started as a DIY project, but it's now available pre-assembled.
Yeah,
it's the exact reason, because there's a lot of people who like to play with it, but they don't dare to because soldering and
It's like I get that. Evolution of making. You start like with a tutorial, maybe on the website or a blog, how to put it on a breadboard. Then you do like your first PCB, and you don't want to solder each kit yourself, so you sell it as a kit, and then at the end you say, oh, I have so much trouble with the people who maybe get something wrong and so on. So I just sell it assembled, and it's way easier to do it like that.
Yeah.
It's funny though as well, you can't charge as much for a kit as you can for the assembled one. But like sometimes the kit is as much work as the assembled one.
I don't have kits, because a kit for the same thing would cost me 1.5 times as much as a pre-assembled board.
Yeah, because you have to label the components as you put them in. You have to provide good instructions. Like it's something you don't think of at all.
And doing it at home doesn't scale. I mean,
no, it doesn't at all. My plan would be to get someone else to manufacture them. The first person I'm getting to manufacture them is Robin Reeder. He's in a few weeks' time, he's doing a live stream similar to the Pico Planet one, where he assembled some of Sabrine's boards. So he's going to do that with them. Just basically, like, this order is basically just a trial order, and if I'm happy with the board, and I'll probably make them available to like my GitHub sponsors and things like that, I'll get them manufactured off Maker Fabs. So this has been a long-winded answer to your question, bitluni, but maybe about to be properly available, probably about 2 months, I would say. like, you know, it really at that stage it'd be up to how fast maker fabs get it to me, but like there are 6 weeks.
There is no way around to subscribing to your channel or following you on Twitter to be updated on that.
It's just not possible. Like, I don't know how else you're going to do it.
About your test with the super chat, I'm happy to invite you to do this test on my channel, of course.
No, I think I'll do it on my own. So somebody mentioned about John Oxer doing it, and John has done the integration before, but he was using a Raspberry Pi as an intermediate between the ESP32 and the ESP8266. So he was on my MakerCast the last time I hosted it, demoing that thing, and he had like party poppers connected to it. So anytime people super chatted it shot off the party popper. So yeah, I made a few dollars that the
Nice.
That is way too fun. That's awesome. Yeah.
Like, I'm hoping that the project, if it eventually works, will become as simple as like, hey, here's the instructions for getting your API key, and then everything else is just, you know, copy this code, this example, or modify it if you want it a little bit. But like, the ideal scenario for me with things like this is to not have like a kind of another server somewhere else that you need to set up. Like, that's fine if you have the Pi with Node-RED already set up, and you know, a lot of people do. But like, if you don't have that, it's nice to have this standalone thing that is just like, if this thing's working, your thing is working. You know, it's not reliant on anything else.
Okay, cool. So I think it's my turn. I try to keep it short because the quiz master is waiting for the quiz, and we are almost at like 2 hours already. And I have just maybe 2 projects to show this time. Both are unfinished, so I continue. I continue the theme of the stream that we show projects that didn't work at the end. And yeah, the first one, which I'm working like a little bit in the background for time right now, is this one here. It's called the VGA Madness, and you can already see the first botch here. So that's switching RX and TX is like a common mistake. Everyone has to do this on every other board, and also this is the first board with USB-C that I'm using. And that series circuit worked right away, even though it's a few more components than just micro USB. And I like it so much. There's this tiny detail about this board. The USB label is a little bit tilted, so it's I'm evil. I'm triggering all the OCD people. Focus. It won't focus anymore. Okay, triggering all the OCD people, and actually, yeah, there are a lot more botches because we assembled it on stream, and I milled even a version before. I was going to say
I was present for the milling. That was like
milling, and at the milling the boards, I forgot to mirror the back plane and back layer, and which you have to do, and it came out wrong, and we had to remill again, and I flipped apart again. But now, okay, this side, you can see there are like small, maybe you can see it, I don't know if the resolution is good enough. There are like small resistors that I had to put in series to all the VGAs here. And what this board does is basically uses an ESP32 here and uses every available pin on the ESP32 that you can write to, because there are some few pins that are available here, which you can basically use as an analog input, and to drive 6 VGA displays at the same time. And the ESP is capable of doing that, even though not using the processor at all if you don't need to redraw or anything. So that's working. It's only like in monochrome or tricolor in a lower resolution, but it's still capable of doing that. And to test it, I have only like 3 old displays that support VGA input. So I went to AliExpress and basically bought a bunch of, maybe I can switch the camera. Let me change the camera here. Yeah, here. I bought like a bunch of, and here is another of the boards. It's like super heavy because the cables are so huge. A bunch of projectors, and the projectors are basically quite cheap already. They're like 70 euros each, or $70, and they support HDMI, VGA, and stuff like that. And so I can test it with all my projects. And what we did, I can show it right now because it's the wrong way around. We did on stream a little bit of coding and did a 3D star field, and even triggered by audio with the small sensor that's just attached to it. But it doesn't work very well, but it's good enough for a video that I'm currently editing on that. But the people are waiting ages for that. That's basically it. I don't know if I want to sell it because nobody probably has a use
6
for that.
VGAs. I don't even know if I have a VGA cable. Never mind a monitor that could take VGA.
Yeah, that's an issue. You can't buy VGA cables anymore. I went to eBay and simply bought off like all the VGA cables of 2 sellers, and they're basically
emptied out Germany.
Who the F is buying VGA cables?
More importantly, who doesn't need just one? Like, one is not enough.
Yeah, buys all of them. Yeah, and a 6 is a great number because you can basically make a VR cube or like a holodeck, and you can back project onto shower curtains. I don't know if I can show this maybe, but there is like it won't focus because there's the light. I don't know. Yeah, it's too less not much contrast. But I have like a plastic shower curtain, and I bought a few, and you can basically take the curtains and back project on those, and I can maybe make a whole cube or room out of that. So that's the first project that I'm doing. Do you need more VGA cables? I could organize some. Okay, so Alex could organize more cables. More interestingly is to organize them, like I would need like to source them from China for the people that would basically buy this, if anyone wants to buy them. And the first thing, the thing that I also did with this board is to let it assemble by JAC PCB, because they're like, if you can see it, it's like a million true hole pins that you have soldered there. And I wouldn't do that, and tried using JAC, and it was quite good because they basically did it in 2 weeks. So from order to home, it was under 2 weeks, even with Easter in between.
Yeah, they probably wave soldered it.
Yeah, they are hand soldered, I think.
Wow, really?
True hole components are. You can order. I think the maximum count of boards is 50 if you order them.
Yeah, I think. Well, I ordered true hole boards off Maker Fabs, and they're definitely hand soldered as opposed to wave soldered.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
I put boards in the thousands. They are not hand soldered.
No, they are not. They are not. But
oh no,
this is
I order.
Also, this isn't penalized or anything. So this board, if it was like a long one, you wouldn't be able to feed it in some kind like belt feeder to wave solder it. So that's not working.
John Oxer has like a video of I think is he touring JLC's factory or maybe it's not John Oxer, maybe it's Scotty, and there's someone and they're absolutely racing through soldering stuff. Like it's crazy. Like
they have machines for that. Come on.
No, this guy was a machine. He was just he was just flying through stuff, and it's amazing.
It's like when the flux oozes out of your pores.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, and let's make it quick. I have another one that I streamed. Everything that you're seeing now, I'm streaming that on my secondary channel. It's bitluni's trash because it's like smaller and fewer people are there who are actually interested in that stuff.
Main channel if you did those things on the main
Sorry?
channel. YouTube would destroy your main channel if you did that on the main
I don't know.
channel.
I don't want like to flood my channel with streams, because I'm so lazy and I put out a video every 2 months now. sorry,
The trash
supporters.
I'm worse. Like, oh
I
man.
try to do it every week.
It would be like full of streams, and I really it's cool to have it like on the secondary channel.
Yeah.
Okay, and the new one thing that we started to do on the on Friday, I designed this with Christos. You know him from Burg Duino on Twitter. He designed the board to
make
my
yourself
specifications, and this is like
make the camera big.
Oh yeah, I maybe zoom in. Sorry, I forget that we stream in only 720p. Okay, so it's a Raspberry Pi RP2040 board. I had to take it off because we were just debugging this board. You can see there's like test wires attached to it. But we assembled on Friday. We assembled the first one, and it's called RPOE. So like this power block from Mario. This is the logo that I designed for this board. And what it's actually doing is, if it focuses, okay, it's basically like the Raspberry Pi Pico with USB-C, and it has an Ethernet connector. Focus, yeah, Ethernet connector, and it has also like this Quicks connector where you can attach sensors and stuff, and you can power this microcontroller. So focus, hello. Yeah, you can power this microcontroller from over an Ethernet cable. So you don't need like a USB or battery. You can plug in like an Ethernet cable, and this is getting the power and converting it from a high voltage to the voltage that you actually need on that. This is not supplied by every switch or every like router. You have to get but you can get them cheap. This one basically adds this power capability to basic line, so you can plug it in between. This costs like you can get it off Amazon or anywhere else for like 14 euros. And there is even a gigabit switch that supports power over Ethernet. You have just to plug it in, and it feeds the additional power. This one is even power over Ethernet Plus, and this one is only like the basic one, which has a little bit more, less power. And the controller, this first version, only supports like not the Plus version. But yeah, we talked about it a little bit earlier on the stream. It's I don't see, for the first version, I don't see the use of taking a lot of power from the Ethernet, because I don't want to drive LEDs. Doesn't make sense. I would rather use like 12 volts or 24 volts for that to get more LEDs connected. Otherwise, I'm very quickly limited to the count of LEDs. So this is
or you have to
basically
build a giant board for like one purpose, and as we said earlier,
or add multiple connections or whatever. So it doesn't make sense. It's rather something that you would, where you are limited on the Wi-Fi capabilities. If you don't want to use like an ESP32, or you can't use it because it's canned, like in metal case, you don't have any Wi-Fi connection there, or it's very remote, or it's a sensor somewhere in the garden, or in a street lamp, or anything else. You would simply connect this to the Ethernet cable that can be like, I don't know, 50 meters long, and have the power, and you can read the sensors in the speed that you want.
Yeah, so it's only a few watts.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's so cool. What a great, that's awesome. I know people, I work at a makerspace. I know people there who would be really excited by that. So yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's nothing new. We had this, I think there are like STM microcontrollers that have already like PoE capabilities, but I thought I need to hop on that RP2040 thing and do something unique with that right now. But now I'm sitting on this project for like months already and didn't release it. So it's time. And we had some issues with the power, so I had to take the components off again. But we had the first success like 2 hours before this stream here, where we were able to find a bug with the configuration of the buck converter. So it wouldn't like output the right voltage, and the voltage is way too high. So we might have fried our RP2040s, and since I have to like take them off the microcontrollers, I didn't receive any bare ICs yet. I'm limited in that. So, but I'm sure we can soon.
I have 10 coming, bitluni.
Sorry,
I have 10 coming. 10 bare ICs. I'll sell you.
I ordered today because someone Dave mentioned it. Dave the quiz master mentioned that on Velectron you can get those. I ordered 10 as well, and also from the Raspberry Pi shop I ordered like 20 more like a week ago, but these are not available yet. So I will be receiving some soon. But it's like 100 components, really tiny ones for 402, and I don't want to assemble like an additional one after that. So once it's working, I will put it into production in China and maybe sell it. I hope it takes off at some point, and maybe do a like a crowdfunding thing, because the components are not very cheap, and you can basically source anything. We designed this board with everything that was available at this time, and at the point we were about to order, the parts were out, and I had to order from Farnell, from Mauser, from LCSC, and assemble it myself. So it wouldn't be able to assemble by JSC anymore.
So one of the big things on my new board was a buck converter, and once the design was finished and we were producing them, they tenfolded in price.
Wow.
So and the Ethernet chip like fivefolded in price. So it's right now it's just you can't design with anything, because
it's no fun currently designing like projects and producing them by yourself or in small counts. I'm happy that I have like a stock of stuff there, like this basic serial chips that I used also on this one. This is the CH30C 40C. They are not available right now, and I have like 200 here. So I was able to help out Christos, who designed this board, and sent him a few over so he can continue with his projects. But sometimes hoarding parts also helps.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay. I think that's all from me. So if you want to see how this saga continues, I'll be streaming soon on bitluni's Trash. And now I think it's time for the quiz.
Never gonna give you up. Oh, hi.
We added some MacGyver too.
Well, my name is Angus, and I'm not gonna do this accent anymore.
Oh, boo.
That was very short-lived.
So Dave came up with a really brilliant idea, but he's too shy to actually do it because it's a very mean test. And I thought, man, Dave, I can take over. So I'm gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and it's gonna be a test. And I thought, well, Dave thought, but I'm gonna just pretend that it was my idea, like I always do. So, all right. So I had the idea that I would just write down a little detail of everyone presenting, and I'm gonna ask you back what it was. And for anyone that was presenting, of course, they don't get points for that, but we have questions for everyone, so it's gonna be good. It's gonna be fun for everyone.
Do we need a pen for
I don't
this?
know any electronics. I'm going to fail so hard.
No,
so hard.
You just have to be, or had to be, an active listener to everything, like everyone said here. And
I'm so
watching.
screwed. I was not listening to you at all.
Well,
I listened.
why
Whether or
so?
not I remembered it is the problem. Okay.
All right. And I got a bonus question, of course. It's going to be a question asked from a host from one of the other shows. Actually, it was questioned twice by the same host, and probably the ones that were in that already forgot the answer again. So we'll get to that as well. But okay, let's go. So the first two questions are about Billy's
How do we
presentation.
write it down or shout it out, or what do we do?
I came prepared.
Okay.
What do we do?
You just scream it into the
Okay.
void unless it's about yourself. So Billy, this is
I will be
not the
quiet.
part where you scream. Exactly.
No screaming. Got it.
Great. Okay. So everyone, Billy told us what she was doing before all of this makery do. What was it? What was
Something
her first?
adult moderator name.
She did a lot of things.
That's wrong.
Moderating
Okay.
No, she
Reddit,
was.
3D printer Reddit.
No, it was. She was in costume design.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah,
She was
yeah,
a-
yeah.
she was a
I would
seamstress.
count that it was theatrical costume making. That's what
Yeah,
she said
that's a good
because
one.
I was
Well done,
so
Brian.
Brian.
I someone
just
who
too
can
obsessed with all the
multitask,
adult
apparently.
And I thought Brian was the one that wasn't paying attention.
I am very good at doing two things at once. I think like my ears have like the or like the Raspberry Pi 2040 thing where the GPIOs can do stuff on their own. Like, is it? I can't process it at the time, but it just sits there and bounces around for a while. I get it
Okay.
eventually.
We can show that off in a second.
We'll see.
Let's see. Next question, again about Billy. This presentation. Where was the printing on textile guide posted? On what community?
Hackaday.
Yes.
Damn.
That's
Yeah.
very nice, Mr.
That was
Bitluni.
quick.
Oh.
I'm not biased at all. All right. The next presenter was. That's not a question, but it was David. So,
Oh,
okay. So, David, it's not your turn now.
I'll try to be quiet.
Awesome. All right. So, what was the first ship he was presenting as a board? What was it?
The
representing?
555. First one he
That's-
presented was the 555.
Not what he showed.
It was the
Oh.
it was the op amp, but I don't know the number. The LM
No,
74 something.
pretty sure it was the
Yeah,
555.
that's-
It was
close enough.
definitely
No.
the 555.
No, you didn't show that.
It was this.
Definitely.
It was this
He
guy.
showed up the
which is the 555.
And then
I could have
and then
even
he
told
said,
you about
I
That
have
one
a
goes. That
smaller
one goes to
one.
Brian.
that works.
Yeah, this one actually
Correct.
works.
All
It
right.
was another test. It was just
Which I
another
passed
test. If you
again.
paid attention.
a quiz within a
So
quiz.
Chat. Who was the first one to say 555 now? I feel silly about that.
Someone scroll back.
Who said 555?
I said
Oh,
5.
that was totally Brian.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian again. Bitluni. You gotta keep up there. Okay. Never mind. How many tubes were on the second board that he showed?
Was this
12.
the first one or this? Is this the 555 or the 741?
Billy's
12.
right, in my opinion, it was 6.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which
Woo!
even contradicts
Was it?
against the fact that you thought that the 741 was the first board he showed.
That's contradiction.
Well, I
don't know
corrected that, of
anymore.
course, because everyone else was right but me. But who am I? The quizmaster? Right. So where was I? Next question. Next presenter. It's Quinn. Time to be quiet now.
Yes.
What was the name of the board that he showed?
The Quinn LED?
Well,
Double
there
dick.
was one name. And
No.
it ended with a Uno, so
Dick Uno.
yes. That was totally not helpful for me to help.
There were no hints whatsoever.
Okay.
But,
And the
but
next
it's
question.
actually, it's a Dick Duo with this new, or Dick Duo with this new.
Bitlooney's been paying
Yeah,
attention
Right,
here.
that's right. I remember that.
And then there was the Dick Quad, of course.
That sounds like something completely different to me. I'm just trying to the dig
Yeah.
word. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, this is
I'm having a
bold
little
choice.
giggle to myself.
Yeah, but actually, it's not 4. It has 5 channels or something. No, it.
Yeah, he said there's
Yeah,
a secret 5th channel.
It's a Dick Quinn now.
Hey.
All right. Next question. Quinn again. How many hard drives were shown in this?
16.
15.
19.
Heck.
All right, who said 15?
David did.
David,
Damn.
you're still with us. You're playing.
Very
I got
good.
my first point. I will cherish
I
it
know
forever.
What was the 19 number? There was 19 in
There were 19 adapters. Because the USB hub and fans and
That's it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry.
But how do you remember even the 19?
I was
Yeah,
about to say, it's weird how
remember 19 at
brains
all.
work, isn't
Popped
it?
up.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works. It's all ADHD up there. Who knows?
Okay.
No one knows why it stores things.
Out of pops.
Okay, Brian, you said so little in all that time. But I found 2 questions for you, of course, too. So be quiet. Very quiet. I can still hear it breathe. Sorry. So, how many pixels did Brian use for his traffic lights?
how many pixels?
Oh,
That's 128 by 256.
32. What's
Bitluni
it
is
called?
right
It's
again.
512 pixels in total.
I'm sorry, what? Bitluni is right, what?
No.
No.
He said, no, wait. I have the response. Yeah, it's wrong. I was biased. Oh no.
I don't think the right answer has been given yet.
I think
Start
it's 32 by 64. I don't know.
I think it's more
That's
like 20. Oh, okay.
yeah, it's 32 by 64.
Yeah.
Really?
I don't think I ever said that though.
He never said the number though, but I know
Yeah,
those
yeah.
panels, so
I thought
Cheating.
it's the lower resolution. Yeah, no, it's actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
32 by
it's
64.
32 by 64.
I'm trying to
Wow,
count.
okay. So Quinn, another point.
well, no, that's my first, I think.
Yes, that's the first.
Oh,
Yes.
I would have counted way too many LEDs, of course, too, but nobody said that.
it's
Okay.
it's a balanced
Next.
game.
Next Brian question. What was the name of the board he showed?
Oh,
Oh.
Trinitrix.
the
Oh.
Close.
No.
LED Trinity.
There was a Trinity
It's kind
on
of
it.
in there.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's probably close enough.
Yeah, I think Trinity is close enough.
It is
Oh.
it's the Trinity. The ESP
It's
just-
32.
It's
Nice.
just Trinity.
ESP32 Trinity.
Oh, ESP32 Trinity. Okay. What? More points? Yes.
Trinity. Okay.
Points.
I'm ahead of you, David.
I'm really terrible at this, apparently. I can barely remember what I myself said.
Well, good thing you don't have to say anything there. Okay. Looney! Yeah, that's when it really got repetitive there. I'm not gonna ask for the name of the board. So, what's the name of bitluni's second channel?
bitluni
Trash.
I think Billy was the fastest.
Woo!
Isn't there also a gardening channel?
There is another channel where he reviews products and he has one video and 40-something subscribers.
What?
Yep.
I didn't know about this.
He does. If you go to his trash channel, which I was doing as part of this live streaming stuff, he has, like related channels, and there's a bitluni reviews or something, and it has it has a weird logo. Has one video from 4 years ago, and he has 57 subscribers.
Really? I
I'm not
can't even remember.
subscribed.
I have maybe 8 channels in total. There's even bitluni's art or something that I have 2 videos or 3 videos on.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice flex there, bitluni. Last question about the makers here. And then it's the bonus question. But yeah, I don't have high hopes there. So Looney. He was working with someone together on the last board. Who was it?
Bergduino. Christos Bergduino.
I think that's kind of...
Brian's great at this.
I knew who he was.
He was on my trash live stream. So
You're right.
I was there too, but I couldn't remember the name.
That was
cheating.
a cheat. That was a cheat. Having to go to that, I felt like I was cheated.
Oh no. I'm sorry, bitluni, but Brian is in the lead.
No worries.
So here's the bonus question, the last one. I'm so happy to get all my clothes off of my body.
On the street?
The show.
Oh, okay.
Full
Thankfully
circle.
not.
Full circle back to NSFW content.
Yeah.
It's a good thing we do the Makercast after dark, so isn't it?
Yeah, we should do that. I have a channel. We can do that.
Billy, it's a different after dark than you're thinking of right now. We'll explain it afterwards.
Okay. Is it really? Okay.
It is.
Well, I was not leading with the question if I wear pants or not, because nobody can tell. I'm wearing pants. No,
I hate wearing pants. Dresses are.
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do. All right. Bonus question. Bonus question. What's the name of the woman who co-invented frequency hopping spectrum communication that was also used in Bluetooth?
What?
Oh, I know this. Isn't it Hattie Lamar?
Yes, it is.
You get 2 points for that. No clue whatsoever.
Woo!
Can I ask how you knew that? Just off the top of your head.
I watched a documentary about her once. And she was quite a brilliant mind, but she was really beautiful, and people only wanted her for her looks, and so she died really sad. And trying to recapture the looks of her youth, even though she helped invent this channel switching thing, and she wanted to use it in the war to help with missiles and stuff being encrypted, and they just wouldn't listen to her. And then ages later, like decades later, they plucked it out and used it and never paid her a cent. And yeah, it's used in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and stuff. And yeah, she died very sad and a social recluse because she was trying to recapture the only thing people had valued her for throughout her life, which was her looks, even though she had quite a brain on her. It's a very sad story, but well worth learning about. Yeah, Hedy Lamarr.
It's only like the third time that bitluni and Brian are hearing about her.
Really?
There was a question that Blitz City DIY list.
I wasn't on that stream. I wasn't on.
You were at least on one.
I might have been on one of them, but I wasn't on the one where Liz had the quiz about the women in technology.
Right.
I'm terrible at like that kind of knowledge in general. So if it was about the guys in technology, I would also do awful, but I would have done awful in that quiz too.
Yeah, I heard that. Apologies.
Yeah, I'm more in remembering in memorizing faces than names. That I'm terrible at names.
Oh, I am so bad at names. Everyone and everything. So bad. Oh.
It's really hard for me. Like also all the people on the stream, I know them all. Like, but I quickly, if I don't have a face, then I can't memorize them for ever. What I talk to them about and such. So that's terrible. I really love to meet people in real life and get to
and
know
insult them like you did.
Like the quiz master, which did a great quiz. So what's
Thank
the
you for
result?
the quiz. That's awesome.
Does anyone want to know who won, or is it?
Yes.
Brian, right?
Yes,
Brian killed it.
Well,
3 points?
we all agreed that 2 points for the bonus question is fair, so it's Billy.
Yeah.
Oh well, thank you. we can tie, Brian.
Yeah, it was hard. That was
the hard
actually.
question.
You earned it, Billy.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
What's the
thank you.
prize?
Yeah.
Yeah, before I decide
absolutely
if we tie,
nothing.
Yeah, you earned it, Billy. Well
Price
done.
was
Thank
his
you,
whole
thank you.
presentation.
That's why it's so unfair, because there's nothing to win, only to lose.
No, just having you as a quiz
What happened
master
to
was
his
a win.
voice? What happened to his
Huh?
voice?
What?
What happened to Angus's voice? He just changed there.
It was me all along. Oh yeah, I'm gonna take
It's like
this
a
off now because it's very long.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
brilliant.
Thank you, Dave. Thank
That
you
was
very much
excellent.
for
Yes,
doing
thank
this.
you. That was lovely. That was lovely.
This quiz. It was awesome. You know, I love quiz.
I like things I win.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
You know,
Everyone is pleased.
I'm an insanely competitive person when it comes to stuff like this.
I'm
I
sorry,
just-
Brian.
no,
we
like,
tied. We tied.
cheated.
We won together. You and me. We won
you
together.
know what?
No, he
I'm-
didn't. He
I'm
was
perfectly-
cheating.
I wasn't cheating.
By knowing the
Yeah, sure.
answers.
I was doing other stuff, and I still managed to hear
No,
absorb
you cheated
every
about
piece of information.
Christos. You
What, 'cause
knew
I
it was
have
Christos
friends?
even before this stream. Yeah.
You're cheating by having friends.
I'm sorry for I'm sorry for being an online sociable guy.
This was so great. Thank you so much. This is really fun.
Okay. Oh, wow. We are already 2 hours, 20 minutes. Okay,
That's
let's
normal.
wrap it up. Thank you to all my guests today. So we had Billy, we had Quinn, we had David, Brian, and of course the quiz master, Dave Darko, quiz master Angus Flash. And don't forget to subscribe to all the channels, check out the shops and support them on Patreon and whatnot. All the links are in the description.
Does
And
Quizmaster have a Patreon?
Quizmaster has maybe GitHub sponsors, I think.
Oh.
Dave Darko might have GitHub sponsors. No, you
Not
don't
even
have
that.
anything. You have
I'm
to
very
subscribe
lazy.
to Elephant17 to watch his videos.
It's Elephant 19. Get it right.
Elephant 19. No.
That's true
Um,
sometimes.
And that's about it. We don't know who is hosting next, or do we want to pick anyone? No.
We better not pick on this. But
No.
We'll figure it
it's
out.
stressful to know this 1 month up front and then procrastinate until the last week and then, do it like me. Okay. thanks for being here, and thanks for all the viewers and the very active chat. We have a lot of spams on the on the light, Brian's light.
It seemed to hold up. I think it's still working. So
That's better than my
Yeah.
stuff.
Solid.
If I had to get mine working again, it would take another 30 minutes.
Hey, it worked. It worked.
yeah,
It
it's
worked,
still
it worked.
working. Yeah, it's solid, rock solid.
So, thank you, everybody, and I see you next time. Bye.
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 Thank you all.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.